I stand frozen in my parents' doorway, my portfolio case heavy in my trembling hands. The conversation inside halts as my father notices me, his eyes narrowing with that familiar mixture of disappointment and impatience. "Perfect timing, Rowena," Dad says, waving me in with the casual authority of a university department head. "We were just discussing how Cressida's promotion to associate professor came 15 months ahead of schedule. The youngest in university history." His voice swells with pride as he gestures toward my twin sister, who sits primly at the dining table surrounded by congratulatory flowers. I set my portfolio down carefully, the leather case containing sketches for tomorrow's design studio interview. The table is set for a celebration dinner I wasn't told about until this morning. "That's wonderful, Cress," I say, trying to keep my voice steady. "Congratulations." My mother bustles in from the kitchen carrying a steaming casserole dish. When she thinks I'm not looking, she leans toward my father, her voice dropping to a whisper that still somehow reaches me. "At least we have one daughter we can be proud of." The words hit like a physical blow. I press my palms against my thighs to stop them from shaking. "Rowena," my father calls out as I try to slip toward the bathroom. "Perhaps seeing your sister's success will inspire you to reconsider this drawing phase. There's still time to apply for the economics graduate program. A respectable career, like your sister's." My bedroom at home tells the whole story. During a visit last month, I noticed again how the space remains frozen in time, split perfectly down the middle. Cressida's half displays her academic awards on custom shelves Dad installed himself. My high school art competition certificates once hung on my side, but Mom removed them years ago to avoid clutter. The bare wall remains a silent testament to their priorities. Every Christmas follows the same script. Dad gathers the extended family in the living room for his annual tradition, reading aloud our report cards from elementary school through college. Cressida's straight A's in economics and mathematics earn approving nods. My A's in art and B's in economics prompt concerned glances and questions about applying myself. Last Christmas, Aunt Margaret asked if I was still doing those little drawings, while Uncle John praised Cressida's thesis publication. "I've made a decision," I announce quietly, returning to the dining room. The words feel foreign in my mouth, dangerous and thrilling. I've accepted an internship at Horizon Design Studio. The green bean casserole crashes onto the table as Mom's hands fly to her face. "But what about the economics program your father arranged? Do you know how many people would die for that opportunity?" Her eyes well with tears, the familiar guilt strategy that's worked countless times before. "I want to build my own path," I say, surprised by how steady my voice sounds. "Design is what I'm good at, what I love." "Cressida," my father interjects, turning away from me entirely. "Talk some sense into your sister. She listens to you." Just like that, I'm dismissed from my own life decision. The conversation continues around me, about me, without me. "Rowena, be reasonable," my mother adds. "Who will pay for your final semester? Your apartment lease? Your health insurance?" The threats aren't subtle. Everything I have exists at their mercy. Cressida reaches across the table, patting my hand with rehearsed sympathy. "Maybe you should try Dad's way first, Ro. You can always do the art thing later, as a hobby." In that moment, I see it clearly for the first time. I've never been Rowena to them. I've only ever been the other twin, Cressida's less successful reflection. The daughter they got stuck with in the 2-for-1 deal. I look at my portfolio case sitting by the door. Inside are the drawings that make me feel alive, the work that makes me feel like myself. For once, I don't apologize. Next morning, the sun filters through my mother's study curtains as I search for a missing tax form she promised to mail weeks ago. I slide open the bottom drawer of her desk, expecting the usual array of stationery and forgotten bills. What I find instead stops my breath. A thick envelope with my name printed in bold letters peeks from beneath a stack of Christmas cards. The return address reads, Rhode Island School of Design. The postmark dates back 3 years. My fingers tremble as I extract the envelope, already torn open. Inside, the words blur, then sharpen. "We are pleased to offer you admission. Full scholarship. Studio space." Everything I had dreamed of while applying in secret during my sophomore year. My legs give way. I stumble backward, colliding with the bookshelf. A framed family photo crashes to the floor, glass splintering across the hardwood. In the picture, I stand slightly behind Cressida, my smile tight while hers radiates confidence. I scan the letter again, searching for any indication that my parents had tried to contact me about it. Nothing makes sense. 3 years ago, Mom had consoled me for weeks over my rejection from design school, suggesting that perhaps it was a sign to follow a more practical path. Dad had nodded along, mentioning how fortunate I was to have the economics department waiting. They hadn't just dismissed my dreams, they had actively buried them. I carefully refold the letter, slipping it into my pocket. The weight of it burns against my thigh, undeniable evidence that transforms vague suspicions into concrete betrayal. Later that morning, Sunday brunch stretches before me like a minefield. Crystal mimosa glasses catch the light while my stomach churns with knowledge I shouldn't possess. "More quiche, Rowena?" my mother asks, passing the serving dish before I can respond. Her pearl bracelet clinks against the china as she turns immediately to Cressida's fiancé, Professor James Whitley. "James, tell us more about that department chair opening." I push eggs around my plate while they discuss university politics, my existence apparently forgotten until Cressida reaches over to pat my hand. "You're so quiet today, Ro," she says, her voice honeyed with false concern. "Still upset about the design studio interview?" My father sets down his napkin. "About that." He clears his throat. "I took the liberty of calling the studio yesterday." The fork slips from my fingers, clattering against fine china. "You did what?" "As a reference," he explains, as though this clarifies everything. "I thought they should understand your history of, shall we say, flakiness, when it comes to commitment. Remember your piano lessons? Ballet? That photography phase?" "Those were childhood activities," I say, my voice barely audible. "I was 12. I also mentioned you'll likely be entering the economics graduate program this fall," he continues, ignoring my protest. "No sense in them investing in someone who won't follow through." Cressida's hand tightens around mine in what anyone watching would interpret as sisterly support. I feel her fingernails pressing small crescents into my skin. "It's for the best," my mother adds, refilling James's coffee cup. "Besides, I've been holding your mail while you've been so busy with finals. There's a placement packet from the economics department you should review." The stolen acceptance letter seems to pulse in my pocket. Holding my mail, my voice rises despite my effort to remain calm. "For how long?" She waves dismissively. "Just important things, bills, school notices." A hesitation. "Opportunities that might distract you." James leans forward. "The economics track provides stability, Rowena. In my professional opinion, you should at least try your family's suggested path before rebelling. Creative fields are essentially glorified hobbies, financially speaking." Cressida nods. "You've always followed me before, Ro. Remember when we were little and played school? You let me be teacher every time. Because you screamed when I didn't. I think but don't say." My father's tone grows sharper. "About your final semester tuition. Your mother and I have been discussing whether continuing to fund this art experimentation is the best use of family resources." "What does that mean?" My hands clench into fists beneath the table. "It means decisions have consequences," he replies. "If you insist on pursuing this design nonsense, we may need to reconsider our financial support." My mother adds, "The lease on your apartment is in our name, dear, and your car insurance, your health coverage. Each item falls like a hammer blow. These are adult responsibilities we've been handling for you." The threat hangs clear in the air. Conform or lose everything. A spark of doubt flickers through me. Maybe they're right. Maybe I don't have what it takes. Years of measured praise for Cressida and tempered expectations for me have worn deep grooves in my confidence. After brunch, I sit in my car, unable to start the engine. My phone buzzes with a text from an unfamiliar number. "Rowena Carver? This is Diana Ling from Horizon Design Studio. I was impressed by your portfolio. Oddly, someone called claiming to be a reference but spoke mostly about economics. Would you have time to meet tomorrow? Your work shows remarkable potential." Rain begins tapping against the windshield, a gentle percussion that matches the pounding in my chest. I stare at the message, this small lifeline thrown from a stranger who sees value in what my family dismisses. As darkness gathers around my parked car, I wonder if breaking free means cutting all ties. Would asserting my independence require losing my family entirely, or was there a way to maintain those bonds while still honoring my own path? What would you do when the people who should support you the most become the biggest obstacles to your growth? The rain falls harder as I finally turn the key in the ignition, heading toward an answer I can't yet see. I stare at my phone as another voicemail notification appears. Aunt Gloria this time, the third relative to call today with concerns about my future. Rowena, sweetie, Cressida mentioned you're going through a difficult time. Her voice drips with manufactured sympathy. Don't throw away all your potential on a whim. Your father worked so hard to arrange that economics program. Think about what you're doing to your poor parents. I delete the message without finishing it. The pattern has become painfully clear over the past week. Cressida has been making the rounds, painting me as unstable and impulsive to every branch of our family tree. The result? A barrage of unwanted advice from relatives who've barely noticed me at family gatherings for years. My phone buzzes with a text from Mom. Meeting with Professor Winters tomorrow at 4. Dad arranged it. Don't be late. I stare at the message, heat rising in my chest. They've scheduled an appointment with the economics department advisor without even asking me. Another ambush disguised as help. The sky darkens outside my apartment window as thunder rumbles in the distance. Perfect weather for my mood. I grab my portfolio and head to my car, determined to drop off my latest sketches at the design studio before the storm hits. 20 minutes later, my ancient Honda makes a terrible grinding noise before shuddering to a complete stop. Steam rises from under the hood as rain begins to pound against the windshield in heavy sheets. I manage to coast into a small tire shop parking lot before the engine dies completely. Just perfect, I mutter, resting my forehead against the steering wheel. The rain intensifies, trapping me inside my dead car. My phone battery shows 12% as I search for a tow service I can afford. Every option costs more than I have in my checking account. I'm stranded, dependent on help I don't want to ask for. The passenger window suddenly darkens with a shadow. I jump, then see a man in coveralls holding an umbrella, concern on his face. I crack the window. Car trouble? He asks, raising his voice over the downpour. Engine died, I explain. Steam coming from under the hood. I'm Thayer, he says. I work here. Pop the hood and I'll take a look. I hesitate, calculating the potential cost against my dwindling resources. My parents' voice echoes in my head. This is why you need our support. You can't make it on your own. I'm not sure I can afford repairs right now, I admit. Let's worry about that after we figure out what's wrong, he says, offering me his umbrella. Use this to get inside the shop while I check things out. But you'll get soaked. He shrugs. It's just water. An hour later, Thayer explains the radiator hose burst, a relatively inexpensive fix. When he notices my portfolio case, he asks about it. I explain about my design work and the studio internship. That's impressive, he says, genuinely interested in a way my family never is. When I reach for my credit card to pay, he waves it away. We had the part already. Consider it professional courtesy. I can't accept that. Some things matter more than money, he says with a smile that reaches his eyes. Good luck with your designs. That unexpected kindness stays with me the next day as I walk into my parents' living room. Professor Winters sits on the couch, papers spread across the coffee table. Mom hovers with refreshments while Dad paces by the fireplace. Rowena, Dad says, as if summoning a wayward student to his office. Professor Winters has kindly adjusted his schedule to discuss your academic future. I wasn't aware I needed career counseling, I say, remaining standing while everyone else sits. Your father expressed concerns about your recent decisions, Professor Winters says, consulting his notes. The economics graduate program is still accepting late applications with his recommendation. I've already accepted a design internship, I remind them. A design internship won't pay the bills, Dad counters. We just want what's best for you. The words land like a match on dry kindling. Years of silent compliance burst into flames. No, I say, my voice steady. You want what's easiest to explain to your colleagues. A daughter who followed the approved path rather than one who chose her own way. Mother gasps. Rowena. Professor Winters. I say, turning to the startled advisor. I apologize for my family's presumption in wasting your time. My career plans are set. I walk out, ignoring my father's demands to return. For the first time, I see clearly that I've been seeking approval that will never come on my own terms. The consequences arrive swiftly. Dad cancels my car insurance. Mom reminds me the lease on my apartment, technically in their name, expires in 60 days. But unexpected support appears. Thayer offers rides to my internship when my parents take my car keys. Unlike my family's interrogations, he asks questions about my designs, listening with genuine curiosity. What inspired this logo concept? He asks one morning, glancing at my sketches while waiting at a red light. I explain my thought process without the familiar apologetic preface. Without my family's dismissive gaze, words flow confidently about color theory and brand identity. Thayer nods, asks follow-up questions. He might not understand every design principle, but his interest is authentic. At night, I create spreadsheets mapping my path to independence. I calculate exact figures for rent deposits, insurance premiums, student loan payments. Each number represents a link in the chain binding me to my parents, each one I need to break. Then opportunity knocks. Miss Reeves, the design studio owner, calls with unexpected news. Your latest concepts for the Davidson account impressed everyone, she says. We'd like to offer you an advance on your first 3 projects. 2 weeks later, I walk into another family dinner. This time, I carry an envelope containing my Declaration of Independence. My hands no longer tremble. I smooth my skirt with damp palms as I stand outside my parents' colonial-style home. The engagement ring on my finger catches the porch light, sending tiny rainbows dancing across the door. Taking one last deep breath, I press the doorbell. My mother answers with her perfect hostess smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. Rowena, right on time. She gestures me inside, her gaze flickering to my simple blue dress. Cressida brought a bottle of that wonderful Cabernet your father loves. Of course she did. I step into the familiar dining room where Dad and Cressida are already seated, wine glasses filled. The table gleams with Mom's good china and sterling silver, the set, reserved for impressing university colleagues and celebrating Cressida's achievements. Never mine. You mentioned you had an announcement, Dad says, not bothering with a greeting. Something so important it couldn't wait until after the department fundraiser next week. I take my usual seat, the one facing away from the window with the wobbly chair leg. Deliberately, I place both hands on the table, the small diamond on my left hand unmistakable. I wanted to let you know that Thayer and I are engaged. I maintain steady eye contact with my father, not allowing my voice to lift into a question. The wedding will be in October. The silence that follows feels like the moment before a thunderstorm breaks. Mom's water glass freezes halfway to her lips. Dad's eyes narrow to calculating slits. Only Cressida speaks, her voice honeyed with false concern. Rowena, you've only known him briefly? Don't you think that's a bit hasty? We've known each other long enough to know what I want, I correct her. And no, I don't. Dad sets his wineglass down with such precision I can tell he's struggling to maintain control. This mechanic? Industrial welder, I interrupt. Fine, this welder. He spits the word like it's contaminated. What are his family connections, his prospects? Has he even been to college? My mother leans forward, voice dropping to that concerned whisper she uses when discussing neighborhood scandals. Your father is only thinking of your future, sweetheart. Is this really the type of man who can provide for you? I almost laugh. After years of comparing me to Cressida, they suddenly care about my future? Thayer owns his own business. He employs 3 people. And yes, he went to technical school. I cut a small bite of chicken, chewing slowly before continuing. But more importantly, he respects my work. He values what I create. And we don't? My father's voice rises. We've supported you your entire life. No, Dad, you've tolerated me. There's a difference. Cressida reaches across the table, her perfectly manicured hand landing on my wrist. Ro, be reasonable. Mom and Dad just want to make sure you're not rushing into something because of our disagreements. I gently remove her hand. I'm not seeking your approval. I'm informing you of my decision. My father's face flushes crimson. You'll have to choose, Rowena. This man or your family. We won't support this relationship financially, or otherwise. The ultimatum hangs in the air. For a moment, I hesitate. Would severing ties with my family, despite their controlling nature, leave a wound that could never heal? Or would staying connected mean forever compromising my authentic self? The doorbell interrupts my thoughts. That'll be Thayer, I say quietly. He's picking me up. Mom looks genuinely startled. You invited him here? Tonight? I nod, rising to answer the door. When I return with Thayer, the temperature in the room seems to drop 10 degrees. He stands tall in clean jeans and a button-down shirt, his dark hair still damp from a shower after work. Dr. and Mrs. Carver, he says, extending his hand to my father, who reluctantly accepts it. Thank you for having me in your home. Mr. Knox. My father's voice could freeze water. Perhaps you could explain your intentions toward our daughter. Thayer's calm never wavers. I intend to build a life with her, sir. One where her talents are appreciated and her voice is heard. And what exactly do you bring to this partnership? My mother asks, emphasizing the word like it's distasteful. I restore classic cars on weekends. I run a small welding company that specializes in underwater repairs for the harbor. It's honest work. Thayer's voice remains steady. I can't offer Rowena country club memberships or summer homes, but I can promise she'll never have to hide her artwork or apologize for her dreams. My father stands abruptly. Rowena, if you leave with him tonight, don't expect us to bail you out when this falls apart. Your tuition, your apartment, your insurance, all of it stops. I understand. I reach for my purse, surprised by how little his threat affects me now. You can't be serious, my mother whispers, her carefully crafted composure cracking. For the first time, I see genuine fear in her eyes, fear of losing control. Where will you even live? We have a place, I answer simply. Cressida stares at me with an expression I've never seen before: uncertainty. For the first time, my perfect twin looks unsure of her perfect path. I turn to Thayer. I need to grab a few things from my old room. 10 minutes later, I descend the stairs with a small duffel bag containing my sketchbooks, my grandmother's quilt, and a handful of photographs. Everything that matters to me now fits in Thayer's truck. As we pull away from the house, my mother stands in the doorway, one hand pressed against her mouth. My father has already disappeared inside. Cressida watches from the window, her silhouette still and small behind the glass. You okay? Thayer asks softly as we turn onto the main road. I look at the rearview mirror, watching my childhood home shrink into the distance. I will be. A month later, I hear Cressida's knock before I see her through the peephole. 3 precise taps her childhood signal. My stomach tightens as I open the door to my studio apartment above Sweetwater Bakery, where the morning scent of cinnamon still lingers. Surprise, she says with a practiced smile, holding a cardboard box. Mom and Dad thought you might want these. I step back, allowing her inside the small space Thayer and I have made our own. His welding sketches hang beside my designs on a corkboard. Our mattress sits on the floor, but the sheets are clean and the windows let in streams of afternoon light. Cressida sets the box on our coffee tableau repurposed cable spool. They are salvaged and sanded smooth. She pulls out a faded photograph of us at age 8, matching summer dresses and gap-toothed smiles. Remember this? Her voice carries the false brightness I've come to recognize. Mom was organizing the attic and thought you might like to have some memories. I don't touch the photo. What are you really doing here, Cress? Her smile falters. Dad had some chest pains last week. The words land like stones. I wait for the guilt to crash over me, but instead I notice how she watches my reaction, measuring its effect. Nothing serious, she continues when I don't respond. Just stress. He misses you, Ro. They both do. Enough to apologize? She sighs, the long-suffering sound I've heard 1,000 times. If you would just come home, apologize for the scene you made. The scene I made? When they threatened to cut me off for making my own choice? Cressida's gaze travels around our modest apartment, lingering on the water stain in one corner of the ceiling. I'm worried about you, this place, and Thayer. You know how men like him operate, right? You're a carver. He sees dollar signs. My laugh startles us both. Is that what Dad told you to say? She has the decency to blush. I cross to the small desk in the corner and unlock the bottom drawer. Let me show you something. I spread our financial records across the table. A neatly organized spreadsheet of Thayer's growing underwater welding business, my design commissions, our savings account balance, and the down payment fund for our future home. I manage our finances, I explain, watching her scan the numbers with widening eyes. Thayer makes triple what I do right now with his dive certifications, but we split expenses evenly. The business account is joint, everything transparent. Her finger hovers over the home savings column. You've saved this much? When you're not trying to impress economics professors with designer clothes, it's amazing what you can put aside. I close the folder. I've never been happier or more certain of my worth than since I stopped measuring it by our parents' yardstick. Cressida leaves without the photo box, her mission unsuccessful. 3 years pass in a blur of growth and hard work. The university faculty fundraiser glitters with crystal and academic prestige. I wouldn't be here if Cressida hadn't insisted, claiming it was time to mend fences. Thayer promised to meet me after his emergency dive job. I stand alone near a sculpture display when I hear my sister's laugh, pitched to Carrie. Yes, my twin still fancies herself an artist, she tells a circle of colleagues, her voice honeyed with false concern. Living in that tiny apartment, still dependent on our parents' generosity, we keep hoping she'll grow out of this phase. I step forward, ready to correct her, when the crowd shifts. Thayer appears in the entrance, still in his work clothes clean but worn jeans, boots, and a button-down shirt with the diving company logo. His hands bear the calluses of honest work, his shoulders straight with quiet confidence. Cressida's smug smile falters as he walks directly to Dean Wallace. Mr. Knox, the dean says warmly, shaking Thayer's hand. We weren't expecting you this evening. Wouldn't miss it, Thayer replies, reaching into his jacket. He hands the dean an envelope. The donation we discussed for the expanded arts program. The dean opens it, his eyebrows rising. $25,000. Your continued generosity is remarkable. The room quiets. Cressida's mouth opens slightly. My wife taught me that true wealth isn't what you have, Thayer says, finding me in the crowd with his eyes, but what you build and share. The dean raises his glass. To the Knoxes, whose support has been instrumental in our new digital design lab. I join Thayer, sliding my hand into his as whispers ripple through the gathering. A professor I don't recognize leans toward his colleague. Isn't that Dr. Carver's daughter? The one who… Yes, the other replies. Did you hear about the investigation? Academic fraud allegations, something about research falsification. My father isn't here tonight. Neither is my mother. I catch Cressida's eyes across the room. For a moment, I see something I've never witnessed before fear. The golden child, suddenly standing alone as her admirers drift away. Thayer squeezes my hand. Ready to go home? I nod, turning toward the exit. The question follows us. When my parents inevitably reach out for help with the scandal, what will I do? The old Rowena would have rushed to their rescue, desperate for approval. But as Thayer and I walk out under the night sky, I realize I'm not that person anymore. Behind us, Cressida stands abandoned, finally experiencing what I felt all those years, the weight of being truly alone. 3 years later, the sunlight streams through the bay windows of our townhouse, catching the edges of my framed artwork that lines the hallway. No longer hidden in portfolios or tucked away in drawers, my designs breathe life into every corner of this space Thayer and I now call home. I run my fingers along the smooth surface of my drafting table, admiring the three-dimensional model of an eco-friendly community center that won me my first major contract last month. The spare bedroom has transformed into my sanctuary walls, painted the warm amber I always wanted but was never allowed in my childhood home. Sketches and blueprints cover the corkboards, evidence of projects completed and dreams still taking shape. In the corner sits a small desk where Adrian, my first design apprentice, works 3 afternoons a week. Your perspective on sustainable materials changed how I approach every project, she told me yesterday, her eyes bright with the same passion I once doubted in myself. The phone rings, interrupting my thoughts. Thayer answers in the kitchen, his voice dropping to a serious tone that immediately draws my attention. Row, he calls, covering the receiver. Your parents are at the front gate. Security wants to know if they should be allowed in. 3 years ago, those words would have sent me spiraling into anxiety, scrambling to hide evidence of my authentic self before their arrival. Today, I feel only a calm resolve settling over me like a familiar blanket. Tell them I'll meet them at the gate, I answer, my voice steady. I catch my reflection in the hallway mirror, shoulders straight, eyes clear. The daughter who once trembled at her father's disapproving glance is gone. In her place stands a woman who knows her worth isn't measured by academic accolades or family approval. The walk to the community entrance takes exactly 4 minutes. With each step, memories surface: Christmas report card readings, hidden acceptance letters, financial ultimatums then fade away, losing their power to wound. Thayer follows a few paces behind, close enough to offer support but far enough to make it clear this is my conversation to lead. His quiet strength reminds me daily of what partnership truly means. Marlene's making your favorite tea, he says softly. It'll be waiting when you're done. The thought of my mother-in-law with her warm hugs and genuine interest in my designs brings a smile to my face. She'd rearranged her entire sewing room to create a display wall for my early sketches, proudly showing them to everyone who visited. My parents stand awkwardly at the gate, looking smaller somehow. Dad's shoulders sag beneath his once imposing tweed jacket. Mom clutches her handbag with white knuckles. The newspaper headlines about Dad's academic fraud investigation and subsequent university dismissal flash through my mind. "Rowena," Dad begins, using my full name as always. "We need to talk about family responsibility during difficult times." I notice the worn edges of their suitcases. The foreclosure notice must have finally come through. "We only need a place to stay until things settle," Mom adds, her eyes darting to the homes visible beyond the gate. "Just for a little while." My hand moves instinctively to my abdomen, still flat but harboring the 8-week secret Thayer and I had celebrated just last night. On my design table sit the preliminary sketches for the nurseria room filled with possibility and unconditional love. "I'm sorry," I say, the words genuine but firm. "That won't be possible." Their faces crumple with disbelief, the same expression they wore when I first refused to follow their predetermined path. The difference is that now their disappointment holds no power over me. I turn back toward home with Thayer's hand in mine, my voice finally and completely my own. Some people inherit love and support, while others must fight to create it for themselves. As I closed the door on my past to protect my future, I wondered, at what point do we owe more to the family we choose than the family we're born into? Would you have offered help to those who once abandoned you, or protected the peace you'd fought so hard to build?